Hello, and welcome once again to Count Gauntly's Horrors from the Public Domain. It's the month of November once more, and that means it's time for our 6th annual Thanksgiving special. Now, we've got to eat something, because as you'll see, I'm getting down to bones, skin and bones, with an emphasis on the bones for sure. But unfortunately, you know what? We've had so many different dishes over the ages. You know, we've had rabbit and octopi and beaver, and there's just about nothing that we haven't eaten for Thanksgiving. Well, I guess there is one thing, but turkey is a little passé, wouldn't you think? I just couldn't stoop that low. No, there's no way. I got to think of something else. But while we have turkey on the brain, here's a short called Jerky Turkey.
I'm gonna shoot ye turkey for ye Thanksgiving.
Hey, turkey!
Well, what do you know? Another customer.
Gobble, gobble, gobble!
Psst. Hey, Junior, you want to buy a hot turkey?
Is it fresh?
Is it fresh? Look at that white meat. Look at that dark meat. Feel the material in that wing. Look at the size of that wishbone. You want to eat it here or take it with you?
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
that-
Junior, I'll wrap it as a gift. Hey, pal. Happy Thanksgiving.
Who you?
Why, I'm just a pilgrim, a turkey, a gun, a Thanksgiving hunter. I'm a pilgrim. I wouldn't do. Oh, excuse me.
Who you? Me half-breed.
Some funny joke, eh, Junior? Listen, Junior, you ain't never gonna catch me for no Thanksgiving dinner. Therefore, why don't we eat at Joe's?
Well, all right. We'll eat at Joe's.
So I'm still mulling over some options because I got to come up with something to cook. Not falling back on the turkey just yet. We'll have to see what the hour brings. But, I mean, Thanksgiving is drawing nigh. I know I, for one, have got some relatives coming in. But who knows? Thanksgiving is all about sharing food with guests, visitors that sometimes you don't expect. And, oh, I see someone drawing nearby. Come here, sir.
I hear thou are having turkey this year. Is that true?
It's on the table, per se.
A fine bird, I must say.
Yes, it's an option that we're considering. What are your thoughts on turkey, sir?
Well, I would say, let's get at it. Do you have the tools that we need?
Yeah, I've got some various utensils that might
That's a fine-looking
serve
bird, I
us
must
well. But so the only reason I'm hesitant to devour this turkey right here is that here on Count Gauntly's, which is this program, it's a television program. I don't know if you came here directly from the year 1621.
I did.
Okay,
It's been a long day.
that's what I assumed. And you know, turkey goes great on the Thanksgiving menu. It's been a classic ever since the first one, so thank you for that, sir. But here on Gauntly's, we try to provide something eclectic, something different, and something a little monstrous. And I mean, unless there's maybe a chicken stuffed inside a duck stuffed inside that turkey, it's just not maybe what I'm looking for.
But that's a fine bird, I say. Sir,
I don't disagree. It's one of the finest. But I'm asking you to keep an open mind.
okay. Well, all I can say is that it would serve us both well to eat from this fine bird, celebrate the day, as our native and other ancestors have taught us all
Okay,
these years.
so that's interesting. You said something about lessons that you've learned.
Well, one of the lessons is that we should eat all the bird, not protect all of it, every bit of it,
Oh, but we should-
everything that we can.
Okay,
From the
I've
bird.
heard this saying that you use every part of the animal, right?
Well, not all of the animal. I
Well,
think
okay, but I mean, I think I'm picking up what
there
you're
are
laying
some
down.
other things that we
Is
do
that
with the bird.
you eat every part, and so if there are parts that you haven't eaten yet, you could eat them.
One could, I suppose, if
So-
one had to.
I'm going to look back at some of these animals that we visited in the past, find some tendrils, some appendages that we perhaps have not munched on before, and see what we can cook up. Here to help us out is meat with approval, as I'm sure the meal I'm about to whip up will meet with yours.
Well, good on you, sir.
This is the third case of this kind I've had this week.
Is it serious, Doctor?
No, but it could have been. He'll be all right in a few days if you give him his medicine regularly. But there should be some kind of law that would keep people from selling bad food, especially meat.
Yes, near the turn of the century, episodes like this were common. Frequent illness, sometimes even death, followed the eating of food which was tainted, unfit for human consumption. There were, of course, many who realized the need for some kind of adequate control over the preparation and marketing of food that would protect the average family from the dangers of contracting disease. And yet, most of them were powerless to do anything about it. But one of those who felt he could do something about it was an author. He wrote a novel. It was not a pleasant novel. It was a bitter, overdrawn indictment of conditions which existed in most of the packing houses of the nation. It told of conditions of filth and carelessness in the handling of meat, which were exposing the people of the United States to all manner of deadly disease. It was widely read, that novel, and those who read became concerned and aroused.
It's an outrage. A man isn't safe even at his own dinner table. Something ought to be done about it.
Why doesn't the government step in?
Yes, the people of the United States violently exercised their constitutional right to demand that the government do something about the proper handling of meat for their tables. As a result, the president himself, Theodore Roosevelt, gave his personal endorsement to legislation that would create federal supervision of meat handling in the major packing plants of the nation. And so it was that in July 1906, a law requiring government control of meat inspection, reinspection, and supervision of processing and labeling was passed. From that time right up to the present, that law has had a profound effect upon the health and well-being of every American citizen. To enforce the law, to make sure that meat of all kinds was properly inspected for wholesomeness and purity, a federal meat inspection service was set up and charged with the responsibility of seeing that all meat handled in interstate commerce or for export was carefully examined from the live animal to its final form. That is why today, more than 2/3 of all meat sold bears this small purple stamp, the stamp of wholesomeness, backed by the assurance of Uncle Sam himself, on which it is imprinted, is free from disease and can be eaten without fear of contamination. Probably all of us at one time or another have seen the little purple stamp on meat that we bought at our local butcher shop. But not many of us have been aware of what is behind that stamp, the complex organization and devoted attention to detail that is part and parcel of Federal Meat Inspection Service. As a matter of fact, the placing of the purple circle of wholesomeness upon a piece of meat is the very last and least important of the many, many acts which precede it. The story of meat inspection begins in the Department of Agriculture building in Washington, where the Meat Inspection Division coordinates the activities of inspectors all over the country, engaged in this and many other kinds of inspection work. These inspectors are highly trained men. Many of them are graduate doctors of veterinary medicine, and all have had to pass rigid tests as to ability and character, because in their hands lies the responsibility for maintaining the wholesomeness of the meat we eat. Their activities are wide and varied, but their word is law around every major packing plant, and they are generally looked upon as wise counselors in all matters pertaining to the handling of meat. Actually, the inspection service starts with the very structure of a packing house itself, because the physical attributes of places where meat is handled are of direct interest to the meat inspection service. They must conform to very high standards, and thousands of details, even such things as hand washing facilities and the screens on the windows, come under the careful scrutiny of the inspectors before a packing plant becomes entitled to government inspection service. The result is that the places where the meat we eat is processed are models of cleanliness. But now, let's see some of the many, many ways that our government's inspection of meat protects our health and guards the wholesomeness of the beef, veal, pork, and lamb that we buy at the butcher shop. Take these fine fat steers, for example, brought from a western state to a mid-continent packing plant. They, with many others, are first confined in a holding pen, so they can be closely examined by meat inspectors before slaughter. The holding pens are so arranged and so lighted that the inspectors, assisted by employees of the packing company, can study the animals when they are at rest and when they are moving. This makes it possible for the trained eye of the inspector to pick out any which show evidences of unhealthiness. When such an animal is found, it is segregated from the rest in a separate pen, while the healthy ones are passed on into the packing house for slaughter. In its segregation pen, the animal whose health is in doubt is given a very thorough examination by an inspector, and on his findings is either approved for slaughter or is put in one of two other categories. These are known as U.S. condemned, in which case the animal is not permitted to be slaughtered for food, or U.S. suspect, which means that the animal must be slaughtered separately from the normal ones and be given a special post-mortem examination to make certain it is not diseased. Inside the packing house, every step connected with the handling of the animals, beginning with the slaughtering operation, is closely scrutinized by the inspectors. And even the outer clothing of the workers has to meet his approval before the day's work begins. Now comes close supervision by the inspectors of each operation in connection with the handling of the carcass. Packing plant employees are required to tag the head with a serial number that corresponds to one put on the body of the animal. This makes it possible for the two to be identified together if any disease condition is found in either one. An important part of the head inspection is to cut open certain glands and also examine for cysts, which would indicate the presence of a parasite that causes tapeworm in those who eat the meat. Even the tongue is given a close inspection, because an abnormality there might be a clue to disease. And while the head is being inspected, the carcass has been taken to a dressing bed, where it is skinned and hung up for evisceration. All the viscera are closely examined by the inspector cases by merely feeling the part, whether it is diseased. However, certain of the animal's viscera are cut open by the inspector to make doubly certain that they are in healthy condition. The next precaution Uncle Sam takes with meat animals is called the rail inspection. Here, the highly skilled hands and eyes quickly examine each half of the split carcass and inspect the lymph glands. The inspectors have been trained to detect abnormalities through the sense of touch. If anywhere in the carcass the slightest abnormality is detected, all parts of the animal are marked with sections of a tag, each bearing the same serial number and U.S. retained in large letters. These tags make it possible to assemble the various parts for what is called a final inspection, which is more detailed than the first inspection and guarantees that if there is any disease present in the carcass, it can be accurately located and classified. In some cases, only one or two organs may have been affected by abnormality, and these alone are condemned, while the rest of the carcass is passed on for food. However, it may be necessary to condemn the whole carcass. In such cases, it is marked U.S. inspected and condemned. All condemned products are held under the supervision of the inspectors until they are converted into fertilizer or other inedible material. Meanwhile, another detailed inspection is being given the viscera as they are separated, and the inedible portions removed from those which are fit for food. Special training is necessary for the inspectors who do this work, since it is highly important that extraordinary sanitary precautions be taken with every step. This careful attention to the way in which livers, hearts, head meat, tongues, and tripe are handled continues after the viscera have left the slaughtering departments. Specially devised equipment is used to transport the meat to the refrigerators. And constant inspection of the cleanliness of the equipment there is part of the job of protecting consumers. Now let us see what is happening to the beef carcass which was so carefully inspected before it was sent to the cooling room. Here the meat again comes under close supervision by the government inspector, the man in the center, as it is divided into the commercial beef cuts with which we're all familiar. But the products which come from this carcass cutting department that are to be used in cured, smoked, sausage, and canned meats get an extra amount of inspection attention. For instance, let's see how carefully an ordinary ham is watched by the United States meat inspectors as it goes through the various curing and smoking processes. To begin with, the products used to cure the ham, that is, the nitrates, salt, spices, and other condiments, must meet the purity specifications of the Meat Inspection Division. The vats in which the meat is cured must be scrupulously clean and of special construction that permits frequent scrubbing. After the curing period, the ham is removed from the vat, and an inspector is right on the job to examine it for soundness and cleanliness, and to see that it is individually washed in clear water before being taken to the smokehouse. Here, too, no detail is too small to be carefully scrutinized by the government inspectors. They even pass on the kind of cord that is used to hold the ham to the smoke tree suspended from an overhead rail. Finally, when the ham has been smoked, inspectors take temperatures of the ready-to-eat products containing pork to make certain that they have been heated sufficiently to kill any trichina which may be present in the pork. And at this point, employees under the inspector's supervision probe deep into the meat to make sure that it has been properly cured all the way through, so that no sour spots will develop. This same careful supervision by the inspectors of smoked meats extends to all kinds of processed meats. Sausage, for example, gets a lot of attention from the government men, beginning with the ingredients, the pork or beef and the spices used in it, and continuing right down to the moment the sausage is packed for marketing. But the work of the inspectors is not limited to guarding the wholesomeness of fresh meats, ham, sausage, and the like. It extends also into the canning department, where every step in the process of preparing a canned meat product for market is constantly under watchful eyes. The cleanliness of the cans, the methods used for filling them, sealing them, and heat processing or cooking. Here especially, extra care is taken by the inspectors to make certain that every batch of cans does get the proper amount of heat processing. And this is done in an ingenious way by fastening to every basket of cans a colored tag, which changes color after the basket has gone through the heat processing. Thus, at a glance, an inspector can tell whether a batch has been cooked or not. Then, as a final check on the wholesomeness and goodness of canned meats, frequent samples are picked at random from every day's production and placed in a high-temperature incubation room, where they remain until the inspector is satisfied that the content does not spoil under heat and that the cans are whole and sound. So you see, when you buy a meat product in a can bearing this stamp of approval by your government, you can rest assured that its purity has been guarded from beginning to end. Yes, there are many, many ways in which the Meat Inspection Service of the Department of Agriculture protects our health. The multitudinous function of inspectors of every type of meat animal in packing plants is only part of the story. For example, 7 laboratories are maintained across the nation in which samples of meat food products of the ingredients used in their ration can be regularly analyzed. Even such things as the kind of paint used in packing houses is tested in these scientific centers. Furthermore, the Federal Inspection Service exercises close control over the labeling of all meat products to see that no misleading information is allowed on a label and that an exact description of the product tells the housewife what she is getting. True, your government goes to great lengths to see that the meat we eat is good and pure. But bear in mind that not all meat is government inspected. However, more than 2/3 of all meat sold in this country is inspected by Uncle Sam's men, and at a cost of a tiny fraction of a cent a pound. The health of every citizen is important to the continued greatness of America. That is why today, the vast resources of a great government agency and the skill and intelligence of highly trained experts is constantly devoted to the task of seeing that Americans have meat that is disease-free and wholesome. That is why today we can all be certain of complete protection by the little purple circle of purity that we find on the meat we eat.
Well, that gave me some ideas.
Fine ideas, I see. I'm liking it.
Yes, so this is but a little snippet of what I'll be offering in a moment. It is oxtail. You'll see, dig down in there. We got a core of bone surrounded by some nice tasty meat there.
Oh, that's a fine specimen. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, look at that. Yes.
And we're going to prepare that in Jamaican jerk style. You know, get a little of that New World celebration going, and spice things up a little bit. That's the spirit of variety I'm talking about.
I see now, yes. This is going to be a fine Thanksgiving. I would have said turkey would be better, but I'm looking forward now to seeing what you have to make, Gauntly.
Well, we've got that turkey pecking around back there somewhere. I'm sure we've not seen the last of it, but like I said, keep an open mind, and you at home can learn a little something from this nice specimen here that I've selected. Take a look at the preparation process up next. We're learning to use every part of the animal. There's only a couple pieces left. But for our main course, we're going to prepare some oxtail in Jamaican jerk style. You know, we're reaching the very tail end of the animal. And so first off, going to get the meat out of here, obviously. And we'll be preparing a marinade for our pieces of meat. So we'll take our chunks of meat here, put them in a pan. And if you were to line these all up in order, they'd probably look more like a tail, so let's see what that would look like. Something like this. There we go. You see, we can just about put the whole animal back together here. There we are. Alright, so to prepare our marinade, I've taken a tablespoon of Worcester sauce. You know, that's the stuff that's spelled Worcestershire. And a tablespoon of soy sauce, tablespoon of garlic and herb mixed seasoning, a whole tablespoon of salt, a teaspoon of browning sauce here, and a 1/4 teaspoon each of cayenne pepper, black pepper, and paprika. We're going to get that all into a little glass bowl here, whip it together, all those spices and seasonings. Smells pretty good. It'll clear out your sinuses. We're making a pretty spicy dish today. And in our next step, I'm going to rub this on the meat here. Try to use every bit of the sauce, just like we're using every bit of the animal. It's pretty thick. Kind of goes on there in dollops. But we'll get in there and we'll massage. to rubbing, and then we'll flip in a moment and we'll get it on the other side too. It's nice and grainy because it's got all those different herbs in it, those different spices. There we go. You see it's becoming nice and rich and brown. And in just a second I'll flip and do the other side, but let's get it on these other pieces of meat too. A little tiny piece here, just to the very tippy tip of the tail, because we're not letting anything go to waste. Okay, and then on these bigger pieces here, I'm gonna flip them and get some more on the other side. So we get it all up and down the meat. If you drip some into the pan, that's alright, because it'll just kind of soak in there. So I'll continue my deep body massage of the oxtail here. There we go, there's some beautiful meat footage. Just squish it all around. Don't be afraid to get intimate with your food. There we go. So it's got that rich brown color and texture all over. Alright, there it is, all marinated now. Nice and reddish brown all over. Pretty evenly coated as best I could. Alright, now I've got my pieces of meat all marinated up like you saw. And I've put 2 tablespoons of oil in a pot here on medium-high heat. And now I'm going to sear each piece of the meat in the oil for about 3 minutes on each side. So let's get the meat in there first. That's a good sound. I can feel it popping up all over my skin, getting me nice and brown as well. Little dribs and drabs of oil jumping around in there. I'll get it all, and I'll start the timer for 3 minutes, and then pretty soon I'll flip it over. Some of these little pieces may cook a little quicker than that, but we'll see. Got that nice satisfying sizzle sound. So we're going to let that go for about 3 minutes. Alright, now we're going to start flipping the piece of meat over so the other side gets cooked as well. There we are. Do that with all of them. As best we can. There we go. Cooking's an art, not a science, and I'm not very good at either, but we're here adventuring together, trying new things is the name of the Gauntly game, and that's why we've worked our way through the entire body at this point, from the head to now literally the tail. Let you experience that sizzle for a little bit longer. And our next step will be to saute some vegetables. Now it's seared to lock in that nice flavor. It's got all the herbs and spices kind of cooked on the outside there, but soon we'll have to cook it for real for the long haul. But I'll start getting those pieces out of there. Get those little bits out first because they probably cooked a little more thoroughly. It's like something the Flintstones would eat or something. Prehistoric. all nice and brown. Okay, next in the same pot, we're gonna saute some veggies. So I got some onion, some celery, and some carrots, about a cup of each all chopped up. We're gonna put those in what's left of the oil and marination juices here. So take a look here and we'll put that all in. I'm just gonna let that soften up in the mix for about 5 minutes. You can hear the oil quieted down some because it's got more stuff to cook through now. Just adding a nice aroma to the kitchen. Though the onions might make you tear up a little bit if you're sensitive. Okay, we're gonna leave that for about 3 more minutes. Alright, so we've cooked the veggies about 5 minutes. I've got some garlic in there as well, about 4 cloves worth. Now, gonna get some last little pièce de résistance of spices in there. I've got a sprig of rosemary and what's described as a bunch of thyme. All the time in the world right there, all the time we need and all the time we want. And the bay leaf, get that in the mix. As well as 3 cups of beef broth, or beef broth if you're tongue-tied. Get it all in there. So it just floats the veggies and the new herbs. Has a very nice smell now, very savory. And we're going to just let that come to a boil, at which point we will add our meat and some butter as well. Just make a nice spicy hot tub for our oxtail meat to soak in. So it smells really good. Unfortunately, we haven't mastered the technology to broadcast smells to you yet, but they tell me that's coming up next at the station. Okay, now you can see it's coming to a boil. It's starting to bubble up there. So we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We got a little viscosity to the mix, a little dairy. And now we're gonna get our pieces of meat in there as well. Got some big mighty hunks there. That smells good too. Just smush everything around in there. Get the butter melted up. And then we're going to let this sit and cook in the pan for about 3 hours. So at this point we'll turn you back to the station. But of course you couldn't just have your meat course, right? I'm sure. What all did you have at your Thanksgiving?
Well, corn.
Good.
Potatoes. And well, some vegetables such as these.
Yes.
Whatever we had in the fields, we brought in.
Okay. Well, I mean that's what it's all about, is the harvest. You know, reaping the bounty of the land, celebrating your friends and family, and that's what we aim to do in our own grotesque way here. So as you said, I do have some veggies, some green onions, some cilantro, and for a little bit of that tropical zing, got a spicy hot pepper here.
Oh.
Got a little cut on my hand that's already burning, you know, just to taste. And so I'm going to prepare a little salad to add some roughage to our meal. Add a little bit of green, but not too much green. You know, Gauntly's never going to go full salad on you. I'm going to sprinkle in a little secret protein of my own design. Check it out in this next informative segment. Okay, we've got our oxtail simmering in a covered pan here. It's a pot, but really, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Some kind of metal container you can heat up with a lid, and it's going to sit there for a while, and we'll get started on our garnish. Now, you know that Gauntly doesn't like anything that's completely meat-free, so we've got some protein in our salad, which is going to be another part of the body we haven't used yet. It's tripe. It's the stomach lining of a cow, and in this case it comes, since obviously with a cow you got a wealth of stomachs to choose from, this type comes from the omasum, O-M-A-S-U-M, assuming they spelled it right on the sticker there. Now it's got a lot of little tendrils. We're going to cut that up in just a moment, and just as with any salad, you're going to mix it up with some veggie components over here, and for a little bit of spice you got some jalapeno peppers. But we'll show you that process a little more in depth in just a moment. But for now, take a look at those little tendrils. It's got kind of feathery little appendages on the inside of the stomach there. Alright, so we've got our tripe here from the omasum, and I'm going to cut it up. They recommend laying it out. So you see it's kind of got a skin there. Lay it out. This is about a 3-pound chunk of it. Lay it down with that smooth part down. And it says it's kind of got pages like a book, or sort of like a cabbage. You see it's got these sheets of, it's kind of got this rough texture. You can see nice and close there. It's got like little burbles and bobbles hanging down. And we're going to kind of divvy it up with, it said 4 pages each in the recipe description. Alright, so it was very icy. I had to break a lot of chunks of ice out of it, but here now is our omasum meat. And you'll see it kind of is in chunks that look like books with this backing that's the thicker stuff. And we're going to kind of separate out 4 pages at a time and slice them off as best we can. As I'm sure I've said by now, we're all imperfect. We all have our flaws, and that really is the takeaway from Gauntly's cooking episodes. There we go. And we just kind of, I don't know. It says cut it into like 1/4 inches, so it's all going to be pretty imprecise. I think as long as you get it cut up is the goal. It's pretty thick and tough, like a lot of the body parts we haven't gotten to yet. Okay, we could also use some scissors probably. Speed it up a little bit maybe, we'll see. But get these kind of narrow noodles. They're said to have sort of an al dente texture, so a little bit chewy, obviously, because they're made of cow stomach lining. Maybe some bites will taste better than others. But you know what? I think we'll probably do better than the stingray that we had last Thanksgiving, so that's the main goal. That had a lot of cartilaginous bones. Alright, so I've got it all sliced up here, and you got to parboil it pretty quick in some boiling water, which I've got here, for about 40 seconds. And so here goes. Just put it all in there at once. Careful not to scald yourself. And we'll be in and out pretty quick. Just introduce it all to the boiling water there. Got about 20 more seconds to go. Then we're going to rinse. We're going to drain it. We're going to rinse it to cool it off. Okay, and so here is our thyme. We'll take it off the heat. And we'll take it over here. We'll pour it into a strainer. Pour it so you can see it there. There we are. And then we'll run some cool water over that so it will cool off. This is our salad course. So we've got some cold vegetables and some oil to make some roughage and some dressing here to go with our meat, our awesome noodles. And so here I've mixed together 3 chopped green onions, a 1/4 cup of cilantro finely chopped, got 2 tablespoons of soy sauce in there, 1/3 cup of olive oil. Oh, and to add a little bit of zing, I've also put in a tablespoon of chopped up jalapeno. And now we're just going to kind of introduce that to our amasum, which is drained now. Okay, so now I'm going to mix those vegetables we just showed in with our drained noodles of amasum. Just kind of ladle it in there. Scoop it on, drizzle it on, drip it on, and then we'll get it all shaken up. We'll toss the salad. Last little bits of flavor in there. Now we'll just kind of mix it all around. You'll hear that sound. It's nice and slimy, as all good Thanksgiving meals should be. You can still hear it's still kind of warm there. There's a little bit of cooking still happening in the pan. Like at a restaurant when they bring the fajitas to your table and you still hear it cooking. And you'll see the sauce is just kind of lightly coloring. You get all this brown color. It looks cooked, but most of the ingredients are not, so make sure you keep your raw components of anything you're working on separate from your salad here. But I think this will plate up nicely next to our finished oxtail, which we'll revisit now. So it's gone for about 3 hours. Through the magic of television, we've condensed it down quite a bit, but you'll see, here's what it looks like now. Got a nice roux down there in the bottom, or an au jus, something ew for sure. And it smells really good, and it's nice and brown all the way through, and it hopefully won't kill anybody. Or if it will, it'll make good television. That's our menu, all wrapped up and ready to serve. And so, if you'll join me, we'll soon be dining together.
Thank you, Gauntly. You've prepared a fine meal.
As we'll soon see. Yes, indeed.
This is a story of a holiday and home. Helping make ready a celebration is part of the fun. Especially for one of the nicest days of the year, Thanksgiving. There is happiness in the air, and the smell of turkey. That does look good. Thanksgiving is a day for the best of everything. And friends invited to dinner. We remember the Pilgrims had only rough tables on which to serve the first Thanksgiving feast, yet it was shared with friendly Indians. It is good to share a holiday with friends. And it is good to have friends like to come to our home. Good manners make people happy, and good table manners make eating together a happy time. We are thankful for our home and our happy meal. We are glad we have good table manners and know what to do with a napkin. And how to use a spoon in eating soup easily without noise. It just wouldn't be Thanksgiving without turkey. We know Mother knows how to cook it. And Father knows how to carve it. It is fine to know how to sit up and watch it being carved. You would know this is a holiday plate. At the first Thanksgiving dinner, the Indians didn't eat turkey with a fork. But it is easy to learn to use one the right way, to take small mouthfuls. how to butter and eat bread in small bites, so we never have to talk with food in our mouths. It is good to have learned to chew with lips closed and know when to take a drink. Good table manners keep our meals happy meals, and those who eat with us happy. Learning to use a knife the right way takes practice, yet each time we do, it becomes easier. What to do with a knife and fork, even when finished using them, is part of eating well. Holidays are days to be glad, and all good manners are ways to make people glad. We like to offer help, or to help when asked. It is nice to talk with others, and to know when to wait and listen. We are glad to eat neatly, without spots. Holidays are fun. And it is good to be part of a celebration. It is fine to have learned so much, and to have so much in our home to make holiday celebrations happy. Now, could you wish for more?
So we've played it up here, and we're just about to dig into our Thanksgiving meal. We've got our tripe salad, our Jamaican jerk oxtail. First, take a whiff, and what do you get?
Odors of beef and carrot, perhaps some trout, or not trout, tripe, as they say, tripe.
Yes.
With vegetables.
Often mistaken for trout. A little earthier.
Quite a bit earthier, I think.
And I don't see my family too often down here in the crypt, but I've actually heard that Gauntly Sr. might be drawing near to spend the holiday with us.
Well, he should.
Hello, son.
Oh, Pop.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. I learned the whole trade from you, so I'm glad to finally have you joining me down here in my crypt kitchen.
I'm certainly looking forward to a robust feast.
Yes, well,
this holiday meal.
I don't know if you got eyes under there, but take a whiff of what we're offering up today.
Not turkey.
Not turkey. Smell this one.
I tried.
Ooh. That's also
Lovely.
That's also not turkey. But here is a plate for you, sir. And here, I will just do what seems natural. There we are.
Right there.
And you know what? I think we've got one more friend who deserves to spend Thanksgiving with us. And do you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Pilgrim?
Unfortunately, yes.
It's that fine bird we spotted earlier. So, here, madam, you can peck at that. There we are. And of course, can't have a party without a little bit of music. So, we'll see what I can rustle up here. Usually I'll have Ogrod here to tickle the ivories, but it's up to me today. Everybody's spending the holiday with their own kith and kin. So let's see what I got here. Crank this up some. There we are. Play an old Thanksgiving favorite. And maybe for the second round, we'll all join in. Let's see how the first one goes. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. I'm feeling pretty thankful. Yeah, very, very nice. Very nice, I think. I won't beleaguer the audience at home with us attempting to sing that, as there's only one copy of the lyrics, but maybe that will be our credits. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But I think now I'm going to pull out the meat from behind me, and I'm just going to nom on a bit of that ox bone. Let's all dig in, fellas.
Do our best. See what we have.
You know what? I was tired and worn out at the beginning of the show, growing blasé about Gauntly Thanksgiving, and unsure of where to turn next, but what I just needed some Gauntly menu items. So, what do we all think? How's it treating you, Mr. Pilgrim? Not for you? It looks like the tripe's not treating him too well. Well, you know what? You're right. Maybe we still got to keep looking. And you know what? There's at least one thing we still haven't eaten on Count Gauntly's yet.
I'm going home.
Let's just keep expanding that menu, shall we? Tune in next month on Count Gauntly's Horrors from the Public Domain.
Yeah, we all love Turkey Day. It's a day to celebrate. Turkey time, paradigm. Turkey time, paradigm. The weather is cold. Don't you get so sick of me. Turkey time. turkey time, paradigm.